sustainability and the expanding role of the architect. يستهل برنامجية هذه الأمسية بآيات من الذكر الحكيم يتلوها على مساعدكم المهندس محمد عباس.
الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صلى الله عليه وسلم.
للبيئة الحضرية مكونين رئيسيين. الأول يتمثل في الهيكل المادي بالمباني والأنماط التخطيطية للمربعات والمجاورات السكنية والقرى والمدن بمختلف مستوياتها. والمكون الثاني يتمثل في الأنظمة التي تدعم وجود واستمرار تلك البيئة الحضرية، ويتمثل في وجود 7 أنظمة للبنى التحتية والموارد والعمليات التشغيلية لهذه البيئة الحضرية. تتمثل في النقل، مصادر الطاقة، مصادر المياه، البيئة الطبيعية، إنتاج الغذاء والزراعة، معالجة النفايات الصلبة والاقتصاد. منذ بداية تجمع الناس في مستوطنات بشرية فرضت البيئة الطبيعية المحيطة كجغرافية الموقع والمناخ وما توفر فيها من موارد وما توفر من تقنيات بسيطة نفوذا على مختلف نواحي حياة الناس، سواء الاقتصادية والثقافية وحتى الروحية. وكانت العمارة التقليدية نتاج لفهم البيئة المحيطة ومحاولة لخلق ظروف معيشية تفي باحتياجات الإنسان الأساسية من ملجأ وتفاعل اقتصادي واجتماعي ونفسي. إبان الثورة الصناعية والتطور الصناعي والتكنولوجي السريع خاصة في وسائل المواصلات والاتصال في القرن العشرين وحركة التبادل الثقافي والاجتماعي تمكن الإنسان لأول مرة أن يخرج من دائرة النفوذ البيئي والسيطرة الكلية للبيئة على مستوطناتها البشرية، وأصبح بالإمكان استيراد أساليب حياة مختلفة واستخدام التكنولوجيا الميكانيكية والعلمية للتغلب على أي عوائق قد تسببها البيئة. وكان لذلك انعكاس مباشر على البيئة الحضرية في الوقت الحاضر، فأصبحت المستوطنات البشرية متشابهة، لا فرق بين مدينة في بيئة مناخية حارة ومدينة في بيئة مناخية باردة، أو في بيئة صحراوية، أو في بيئة ذات موارد مائية. الصور اللي بتورينا الصورة الأولى فوق هنا دي من دبي، الصورة اللي في الأسفل من نيويورك، والصورة اللي في اليمين ده تصور لمشروع السوم في الخرطوم. أسلوب الحياة العصرية والرفاهية التي تعيشها البشرية في الوقت الراهن كان له آثار سلبية على النظام البيئي وعبئا على الموارد الطبيعية. نسأل نفسنا ايه علاقة المعماري بده كله؟ البيلدينجز بتستهلك ما يقرب من 37 من الطاقة. في الولايات المتحدة تستهلك حوالي 77% من الطاقة المنتجة. على مستوى العالم المباني النظر للمبنى خارج إطار الحيز الوظيفي المصمم من أجله. آلة تعمل على الإنتاج وتوفير الطاقة وتدويرها المهندس المعماري. عشان كده كان عنوان المحاضرة اليوم في عنوان آركيتكت في القرن الحادي والعشرين الاستدامة الدكتور علي شراب، محاضر لعلوم العمارة في كلية جامعة المناطق والأماكن المغلقة وتأثيرها على صحة وراحة شاغلي المبنى. يدرس مادة أنظمة التحكم البيئي والأداء العام.
is different because it touches something deep in my heart. So I hope I'll be عند حسن ظنكم and I hope that you will enjoy what I'm about to say. شكرا جزيلا لمدير سنان العمارة for allowing me to come here and the opportunity to present to you something that I hope to be a debate maker, a discourse, something that will help us to talk about things that we did not talk about before, or at least we begin to talk about things that we see in the future. I want to also thank everybody who helped in making this a possibility, and I'd like to thank our sponsors for making this a reality. Today I'm going to talk about something, and to tell you the truth, it's a bit controversial. Every time I say something like this, some people stand up and say, you are unethical. Architects don't do this. Please, feel free to say the same if you feel like it. Anyway, the idea is, it's something that I've been seeing the last 25 years, both as a student, as a researcher, and as a person who tries to get the new architects out to the world that has changed quite a bit. As we all know, architecture is one of the most sensitive fields to people, culture, to the environment, to the economy, to the attitudes, to the changes of what we see. So architecture is very, very important field, and I'm going to even show you how much larger is it going to be, at least in my vision. So the lecture today, as Mr. Omar said, is the architect of the 21st century. Sustainability, and I often say it's the S word, because most people do not even understand what sustainability means. It's often that we see somebody who has a floor made up of bamboo imported from China and say, this is sustainable building, or a building that has one kind of light source that uses less energy, a sustainable building, or a paint that does not give off emissions. We call this a sustainable building. What is really sustainability? It says on what's this? You don't see what I see? That's the general definition about looking at the future and the future generation. Old enough to tell you stories about 60s. In 1964, 62, 63, there were two professors at MIT, economists, and they wrote a program. And the program is about economic development. And they simulated development, and they found that our need for our growth, our development is exponential. Every year, every country has to grow by X%. That's exponential growth. In the meantime, availability of resources were linear. They're not growing exponentially. So the result, we need to think about new modes of development. And after many years, nobody heard us. There were some people here and there meeting, but nothing happened. So in 1992, many presidents, governments, officials met in Rio de Janeiro. And what did they come up with? They came up with something called Agenda 21. Agenda 21, surprisingly, is about finding new materials, using low materials, low energy, better environment. The world problem, they talked about buildings. So, what is sustainability? Architecture, as we know, prides itself that it's about people, right? And we know that as architects, we need to know so many things. It's not somebody who can calculate sizes of beams, or at least how many, a brain that can estimate things. A person who can create something from nothing on a piece of paper. In business, they call us knowledge-based businesses. We don't have widgets, we don't make gadgets, we make knowledge. So, architecture is one of those in many years, I forgot exactly when. He wrote a book called 10 Books of Architecture. He said the learning of architects, they have to be equipped with knowledge in many branches. That architecture is important. Architects need to know a lot of things. And architecture is, with that fact, many things can happen. So what is the role of the architect in this? Well, the role of the architect, according to the profession, what does that mean? It means that the architect hired is the person who has the big picture. It is not the specialist who looks at one thing, solve this problem for me. The architect is the one that looks at the big picture, the one who sees the issue and then focus on it. It's the person who has the training to create programming. And programming the ones who looks into the welfare and the better use of the resources and investment of that a building and the least expensive way a building can be used, and the building that can you realize as of yet. And I'm going to show you on an old idea. But green thinking and sustainability is a new paradigm. And this paradigm is so fundamental, is so important, that in our near future and in the future to come, things are going to change. And I believe that the architects are going to be leading that role, because we are the most equipped to do this. The paradigm, what's a paradigm? It's a frame of reference that governs our understanding of a specific world view. So what makes a paradigm? The first thing I put there, it has to be post-structuralist in nature. What does that mean? It means that it's inevitable. If all the pieces are there, it's going to happen. Believe me, we will have sustainability today, whether we had embargo in 73 or 84, 79 crisis in oil. We would have this issue faced today, whether we are worried about fracking, we're worried about the environment. We would be doing this today. It is inevitable. It's part of our human evolution. The second thing is that any paradigm includes both the brain and the emotion. You can hear people talking about sustainability, and they talk from their heart because it's the right thing. Is that sustainability is a paradigm. It has all the elements of a paradigm. As a result, architecture, since it's always looked at people and the new ways of seeing the world, every time we look at architecture, a different era, we understand the time, the place, the people. If I want to study a place in history, what do I use? The artifacts. What's the biggest artifact? Architecture. So architecture is going to be leading this paradigm. We all know, probably seen this Venn diagram. What is sustainability? It's such a huge thing. It involves economics. It involves ecology. It involves society. Big abstract words. But abstract words are nice, but they're not useful. As a designer, it's very hard to take an abstract idea and do something with it. Just like the definitions that we see. How can I use it for my design? So, what's interesting is we can design for these, and I'll show you how can we design for livability. I'll talk about livability. Well, we're talking about quality of life. We're talking about individuals who have faith in their architecture, who decide to help the community and dedicate their time and effort in helping the community. It requires deep understanding of the responsibility of the architect community. This is sustainability. I'm not going to talk about BTUs and U values and R values. I'm going to talk about what is sustainability in the real sense. The sustainability that is going to change the world, not the one that's going to make good certification, lead certification. It's the one that's going to make the real difference. It's about commitment to the environment and stewardship of the environment. When individuals are involved in making a difference. And I'm going to show you examples of how schools of architecture, architecture programs, and individuals go out of their way to do these things. What does that mean? It means we have to integrate nature and the built environment. Remember, we talk about this. It's about integrate nature. I'm talking about work in the city, farming. That it's happening everywhere. You go to France, you go to New York, you go to other countries. People are planting. Nigeria, you can see people are planting vegetables with water treatment. I have a student right now who's helping a city. He's an architect. This is his thesis of architecture. Asphalt or tiles, it has grass and it absorbs whenever it rains, the water comes down. It's filtered, it's cleaned, it's drained, it's collected, and when it's brought back to the rivers and creeks, it's clean water. So, what's the idea? That the little creek research interest, using natural means. Designing for thermal comfort. But thermal comfort is about delight, about pleasure, about memories. We remember good days when it was nice. We would comfort and indoor air qualities are fundamental in the design of buildings, what we call sustainable buildings. And there is a college in Auburn, in Ohio, and they had one student who was environmentally sick. He was material. He could stay at home, but the university said he has the right. So they chose the environment not because of environmental reasons only, because the attitude that each one of us counts. And that's sustainability. We care about individuals. We don't say, one person, who cares? No, we care. We work hard to make each one of us a happier person. Eliminate greenhouse emissions, and we know all about this. And access to sky, clean sky, is a right. It's a human right. Access to clean water is a human right. So sustainability is at that level is something wonderful. We can design livable communities. We can design communities in which individuals have rights to live happy and prosper. Viability. That's the other pillar of sustainability. We're talking about growth, we're talking about development. I have some students doing their thesis in architecture, looking at, and I'll show you an example soon, at a village where their downtown area burned. So they decided to go and help the community. Not by designing buildings to replace the ones that were burned, by looking at what kind of activities there need to be there to activate the society back, to activate that place back. So they are doing right now surveys and interviews with people on their own. I was so afraid that if I leave, they go home and play and sleep. They are talking to each other, making meetings. They are meeting with the community because they want to help. After we have the ability to make a difference. So we give this to other people. We need to understand that we need to invest in environmental effectiveness. Because if a city, and now we have the history, we know what happens when cities look at industrial development. History told us and showed us clearly that these cities' environment become horrid and people get sick. And then they abandon them to the suburbs, and we have sprawl. And we all know the problem with sprawl and pollution and transportation and traffic. We all know about the disenchantment of individuals sitting hours and hours waiting for their queue in the car. So the result is we are hurting ourselves by not thinking about these things. The culture of conservation, and I've seen it. I was very happy to see that we have recycling and we have people who are interested in this. The culture of conservation, the culture when we do what needs to be done to preserve what we have. I was talking to my the people who were taking the workshop. You have to be greedy. You have to know that everything is valuable and we need to preserve it. The culture of conservation is a good culture when nothing is wasted. We all know that we can use all of our resources wisely. And that's viability of a community in which the individuals understand that in their individual work and efforts make a difference. So that would, the issue of sustainable efficiency and energy conservation fits in nicely in that framework. Sustainable communities. I said in a lecture somewhere in Saudi Arabia that you cannot have a good building in a bad city. I guarantee you do not have a sustainable building in a city that is not sustainable. You have a building that uses less energy and everybody drives miles and miles. You don't have a good, efficient system. If the air outside is polluted, we have to put filters and we add fans. We do not have a energy efficient building when everybody wastes energy everywhere else. We need to think not individual buildings. We need to think of the city, the community, the urban environment. When you are designing an individual building, you're contributing to the environmental conditions in the whole urban area or rural area or whatever the context is going to be. Performative design principles are very, very important too. We need to understand that our designs need to perform function. I come and sit and they're waiting for me to say, think of the future, initial cost is high, and go and tell them, don't build any building that costs more than the regular building if it's efficient. If it's efficient, it should cost less, not more. So you start sitting in their chair, this is new. You don't sacrifice today for tomorrow, right? Say, well, if you make the building envelope more efficient, if you make the systems more efficient, what are you going to benefit? Half the way the structural system is smaller. Add that to the formula. If the system, I'm just mechanical system because this is what I teach. If the duct is smaller, its weight is lower, the structural system. Add all these things, and the price this big, so slow, $4,000. Now you can buy it for $50, $100, more power. Why can they do it? Our architecture can't. Viability. There is a possibility. We are positive about that. They become part of the city staff. They volunteer to do something in the evening. These people don't relax. They work day and night and then they have Sunday off they live. That's viability, the second pillar of sustainability. Equity. In the US, we have lots of recycling. You finish your laptop is too still with your own hands. They dump stuff on rivers, dump stuff, the air is polluted. That's not sustainability. That's not recycling. This is a crime. Equity means you are responsible. When the world started looking at carbon dioxide economy, it became a trade. The polluters buy shares from the polluters, the poor, because it's their responsibility. When we're not afraid of the poor, when we walk everywhere in the city, especially in the US, It's scary. Projects, everybody participates. We do not do projects without going to the community, and we do charrettes. We go and work with them. Let's design this together. In the next couple of weeks, we're inviting the elementary school students of that village to design the village with us, because they know the future. They know they are the ones who dream, and we need to answer these dreams, because they are the ones who are actually going to use this, instead of abandoning the village and live in the city. We need to educate and train. You know, I am one person who believes that every university student should take architecture before they specialize in law or medicine or anything else. Because architecture is liberal art education, it's design education, it's preparation for the design thinker. Today, businesses go to architecture firms to learn how they think, because they're not being. Make use of these abilities to make a difference. We need to make sure that everybody has adequate income, and cities do not depend on that. When the industry changed, they moved it to Malaysia or something, or Mexico, these cities died. So, if this is sustainability, and I hope you trust me when I say it's a new paradigm, and I hope you trust me when I say the visions of city. We need to have us sitting and saying, I will have a vision of Khartoum 2050. Sketch it. We make a museum, an expo or a gallery. How Khartoum is going to look like. How a new city is going to look like in Sudan. How can we develop? Is a fascinating topic. Businesses compete with each other, right? My success as a business itself, after some time, it loses its ability to sustain itself. So ecological economics is about partnerships, is about finding relationships that make the business community succeed as a group. We no longer see the businesses that try to dominate. We see them every once in a while. In our cities, we call it globalization. These businesses are supporting food stores that come in, that sell things very inexpensively. Store, the equivalent to the Dukan at corner, it would be closed. And these are the people. That's an incredible thing to be, to look at what's going on, to be interested. Call somebody, the mayor, and said, have you ever thought if you can do, and then I will do this percentage, I will volunteer for this, but I have to do this. They were saying, we don't have budgets, nothing. I said, if you have an idea, you will find money. And believe me, legislatures. Artists can be wonderful legislatures. They can make a difference. This is what people go and say, this is so unethical. You don't know